USB microphones can be super handy, and they take out a lot of the complexity of getting good audio for your videos, for your podcasts, your live streams, or whatever you're doing. Is the FiFine K658 a good option, or is it just a gamer-focused toy? I'm calling it FiFine because that's what Audio Hotline says it is, and if you can trust the Audio Hotline for anything, it's pronunciation. I thought I'd give this microphone a shot because a lot of the people in the comments of my microphone and other audio-related videos do have gaming channels, and in my opinion, this microphone looks like it is aimed at that demographic. I am recording this directly into Logic Pro, and I'm not going to do any post-processing to the microphone. I'll just raise the levels a little bit in post so it's loud enough to hear. So let's talk about what this is. I mean, it's a microphone, but it is a dynamic USB microphone. So this plugs directly into your computer. It comes with an 8-foot and 2-inch long USB-C to Type-A connector. So the Type-C goes into the back of the microphone, and the Type-A will go into your computer. Aside from the cable, it also comes with a little tripod, which is nice and heavy, which is good because this microphone with the included shock mount is very front heavy. Wouldn't recommend using this unless you just really don't want to spend any extra money on a mic stand or a boom arm, but you really can't position this very easily, or it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility on how you should position the microphone. In addition to that, you do get a 3/8 to 5/8 inch adapter thread, and you can obviously see that this comes with a shock mount. There's really no other way to mount the microphone aside from the shock mount. It's kind of odd to me that, typically a microphone will sit in the shock mount a little bit more, but this microphone just sticks out at the end of the shock mount. It's kind of an awkward looking form factor. In terms of the physical features of the microphone, on the bottom of the mic you have the USB-C to plug it into your computer, and then there's also a headphone input so you can monitor the output of the microphone directly. You do have a gain dial here. It's a nice big knob, and on top of the gain knob you have a tap the mute switch and it'll mute the mic. And lastly, on this side, that was easy. There is a button to turn off the RGB LEDs on the bottom of the microphone. The buttons on here, so the mute button and that RGB button, are like capacitive buttons, so there's no real click to them. You saw that I was like tapping that RGB button several times before it actually registered, so it's kind of finicky in that way, but not a big deal. I would imagine you're just going to leave that on or turn it off depending on your preference. There's no headphone volume knob on this microphone, unfortunately. As I said before, this is a dynamic microphone, and the frequency response is listed as 70 Hz to 15 kilohertz. In terms of build quality and just feel of this microphone, in my opinion, it's not that great. I'm not a big fan of the way the gain knob feels. That's definitely plastic, and it doesn't have like a very smooth turn to it. It kind of gets a little bit stuck, and you can kind of hear it. The windscreen also is very thin. You can't just pull it off. You have to unscrew it. It's not a very thick or dense windscreen, and especially on this front part, it's very thin. Very similar to the MV7 windscreen in terms of just thickness and plosive rejection abilities, and we'll see that here when we do a plosive comparison. There's also another little piece of foam in here, and on the end of the capsule there's a little bit of foam as well. All of this here, this capsule, is all plastic. It doesn't feel all that great. Overall, in terms of its build quality, I don't think that the K658 is all that premium feeling, and I'm not expecting it to be premium, but for this price point, this isn't exactly like the cheapest mic you can buy. As for testing and comparisons, I'm going to run down the list of things that I'm going to cover in this video. We're going to check plosives and see how well this thing rejects or does not reject plosives. We'll check how it handles off-axis sounds, and also some handling noise. So if you were to touch the microphone or touch various things around the microphone, how well it does or doesn't reject those noise. And lastly, I'm going to do a comparison with some other dynamic microphones that I happen to have. This is the only USB dynamic microphone that I have currently, so every other microphone was a dynamic XLR microphone, and for those comparisons, I ran them into the Audient Evo 4, and I just turned the gain all the way up on each microphone, and then I'll just adjust the volume in post to try to match them in terms of output. So let's check out plosives on this microphone. So I've been speaking across the front of this microphone for this entire video, so I'm going to continue doing that. Peter Parker prefers the pod mic for podcasts. Peter Parker prefers the pod mic for podcasts. Now let's check some off-axis rejection with this microphone. So talking into the front of it, which is where it should be sensitive. If I rotate around to the side, this is talking into the side of the K658. How well does it reject that sound? Pretty well, I think. And rotating around to the back of the microphone, this is talking into the back of the K658. And coming back around to the front, talking into the front, and to the other side of the K658. Now we'll just check out some handling noise. If you were to tap on the stand that this microphone is sitting on, this is what it sounds like. And then if you tap on the actual stem of the stand, this is what it sounds like. If you were to hit the shock mount, this is what it sounds like. And if you touch the microphone while you're recording, this is what it sounds like. All right, let's check out some comparisons with the other dynamic mics in this comparisons. At the beginning of each comparison, I'm going to jump back to the K658 so you can hear it more directly in comparison with the next microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, step right up and loosen your money pouches. I am Hobo Lobo, a mover, a shaker, a fraternal boilermaker, a mender of loose ends, a doer of deeds, and a sometimes indoctrinator of youth. If you have a Gordian knot that is blowing your mind, bring it here for the untying. Ladies and gentlemen, step right up and loosen your money pouches. I am Hobo Lobo, a mover, a shaker, a fraternal boilermaker, a mender of loose ends, a doer of deeds, and a sometimes indoctrinator of youth. If you have a Gordian knot that is blowing your mind, bring it here for the untying. Ladies and gentlemen, step right up and loosen your money pouches. I am Hobo Lobo, a mover, a shaker, a fraternal boilermaker, a mender of loose ends, a doer of deeds, and a sometimes indoctrinator of youth. If you have a Gordian knot that is blowing your mind, bring it here for the untying. Ladies and gentlemen, step right up and loosen your money pouches. I am Hobo Lobo, a mover, a shaker, a fraternal boilermaker, a mender of loose ends, a doer of deeds, and a sometimes indoctrinator of youth. If you have a Gordian knot that is blowing your mind, bring it here for the untying. Ladies and gentlemen, step right up and loosen your money pouches. I am Hobo Lobo, a mover, a shaker, a fraternal boilermaker, a mender of loose ends, a doer of deeds, and a sometimes indoctrinator of youth. If you have a Gordian knot that is blowing your mind, bring it here for the untying. So conclusions, what do I think about the K658 from FiFine? It's not the finest mic that I've ever encountered. In my opinion, it's not terrible. The sound is okay, I think. And it really depends on what your use case is or how you expect people to actually listen to you. As usual, if you're listening through a cell phone or maybe laptop speakers or even just maybe not great quality speakers, a lot of the nuances and differences between microphones will be lost anyway. If you're just using this for Zoom or other kind of conference calls or something, this is going to be more than fine, and it's definitely going to be an improvement over using a built-in microphone on your laptop, for instance. The frequency range on this microphone is pretty narrow, and it definitely doesn't do much on the low end, but I also think there's just not a lot of detail throughout the frequency range. Everything just kind of gets muffled and muddled. It also has kind of a sizzling quality in terms of sibilance. It's not a great microphone for my voice. A lot of these microphones do tend to emphasize the sibilance in my voice, and I don't know that this one was the worst, but it definitely wasn't the best. I don't think the build quality is that good. I think they probably were thinking, like, if we add this RGB functionality and a couple of the other accessories that maybe will make it more valuable. I would just rather have a nicer build quality, and maybe, you can forego the RGB. It's also kind of a bummer that you can't control the RGB in any way. So it's just rainbow kind of pulsing or breathing RGB. And I was just thinking, another reason that this microphone seems a little bit toy-like or cheap is that there is no specification, at least as far as I can find in the manual, about the bit depth and the sample rate of this microphone. Typically that would be in the specifications, whether it's 16-bit, 24-bit, or whether it's recording at 41 kilohertz. Wait, 41? 44? I can't remember the number off the top of my head. 44.1 kilohertz, or 48, or 96, or whatever. But none of that information is in the manual. I know I'm being a little bit harsh on this microphone, but I feel like the aesthetic of it does look more toy-like, in my opinion. And all that's kind of reinforced by the actual build quality of the microphone. And I don't think the sound quality, while it's acceptable, I think, I don't think it's exceptional in any way, and at this price point, I think there's a lot of other good options. I hope you got something out of this video. As always, if you have any questions, you know where they go. I really appreciate you watching, and maybe I'll see you in another one.